Hi, friends, and welcome. I am your hot mess of a host, Mary Hendricks from The Very Merry Life, your new mom friend that soon will feel like an old friend. Twice a week, every week, I want you to come and join me as we cover moments in motherhood, marriage, sex, and more. Some moments worth savoring, others worth surviving, all with a laugh, pep talk, or F-bomb every now and again. I want you to come as you are, but leave the sugarcoating behind because, guys, we know how sweet it already is. So what do you say? Up for picking some daisies? All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hi, Jess. Welcome.
Hi.
Yay. I'm excited. Jess and I have been trying to make this episode work, but she is a little one. I have a little one. It's just mom life. I feel like that's the way it goes with most of my guests that I have scheduled on here. Thank God. It's like, I've never had anyone that's like super business, all business, where if I have to reschedule, they're like, no.
I was just going to say, it's just like, trying to have a mom date, that will never happen.
I like it. Yeah, that's why I like podcasting. It's like an excuse for me to talk to an adult for once, but thankfully just being like the genre that it is, I feel like everyone's a parent for the most part. So like if I have to reschedule, they're like, yeah, no, I totally get it. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Yes.
It's interesting.
I feel it.
Hello, everyone. I'm pumped. Jess and I are going to obviously be talking, as you saw the topic of the title, we're going to be talking the last baby or potentially the last baby. And it's going to be a good conversation because this is currently the debate that is living in my brain every single day at this point. This is the longest I've ever gone not having another baby. And it's very weird.
It is. I feel like it's a topic that like, it's on a lot of moms' brains. Yeah. I feel like it's one of those ones that like doesn't ever truly leave the brain.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So, well, before we get into that, because I have a tendency to jump ahead without starting.
I know.
I want you to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the fun chit chat.
Okay, so I'm Jess, and I have a fun little mom page. It's at the Runas family, and I just kind of share a little bit of everything and anything, mostly the laughs about my life, our life as a family. I have 4 kiddos, and on my page it literally says mom of all stages. I have a teenager, I have a elementary school kid, I have a toddler, and I have an infant. So I've got a little bit of everything going on.
I think you have a teenager. How old are you? Because you're that.
I just turned 36.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say
so
you're not. Okay.
We were on the young end of having babies. He was a little oopsie. We're not afraid to say that. Yeah, not afraid to tell him that either. He was an oopsie.
How old is he? Is he 13?
He just turned 13 in August. So
he's a
fresh teenager, but those preteen years are
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Although I wonder if it's different with boys versus girls.
I'll find out. I've got 3 boys and then my last one's a girl. So we got the girl.
That's interesting. But no. So, well, you got 4. I obviously have 3 for everyone listening. I would imagine by now you know that. But that's the debate in my head constantly is like, are we done? What's the next step? And like, I say this in the best of ways too, because I've brought this up before. I actually tackled this subject on TikTok. I never brought it over to Instagram. It's a longer video. I just usually don't bring the long videos over to Instagram, but on TikTok I covered it and it actually got really good response of being like, I'm in this predicament. But on the flip side, it also got responses from those who were dealing with either infertility and things like that were really upset with me about it. Which I totally understand that like this is a honor to be able to say that this is like a choice to make. But at the same time too, I also think that this is a feeling that even those who deal with infertility that, deal with IVF or whatever type of method.
They're going to have that too.
You're going to have that too. And I have that with people in my life that have gone through IVF who I almost wonder if it's almost harder because they have embryos where they're like, I have them.
Yeah, they're waiting. Yes.
And now they have to decide what to do with that. So if that's you, stick around for the conversation. And definitely like when this is shared on Instagram and when you're listening to it, depending on when you're listening to it, go find the video and like let us know like your predicament and what your thoughts are on all of this because
yes. Yes. I mean, like I said, it's something that like even now, I know that I'm done in my heart. I know that we're not having any more children,
Yeah.
but, and also my husband is snipped,
Oh, we
but,
got it.
but, it's still something in the back of my head that like, is like, I will never have another
Baby.
newborn.
Yeah.
I will never have another, as my last one grows, I weep.
Yeah.
With every little stage, because it's like, it's just in the back of my head. Like, should I have had one more? Should
Yeah.
we, you know what I mean? It's just something that like, honestly will never leave, even though I have the feeling of, I don't need anymore.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. So like, I think my husband is done. Like if I were to ask him, I think if he were to call it, I think
Mine was done at 3 too.
Yeah, I think he's content and good. However, then there's like certain I can't with him. Then there's certain moments like we're going to London in a month. So he's like, we'll make jokes and he's like, unless we conceive when we're in London. I'm like, what is your plan there, man? I'm like, so what do you want to do? And for me, like him saying that, I'm almost like, absolutely not. I'm like, I'm no way. I'm good right now. But there is still like, I'm literally even yesterday, I'm like, looking around and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I was going through like my kids' drawers and pulling out clothes. And for like my oldest, I have 2 girls. So for my oldest pulling out her clothes, I know I can store those away in case my youngest wants to wear those. But for my son, I don't know. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. You should see his closet right now. It is piled with every ounce of clothing because I haven't done anything about it.
You don't want to get rid of it.
No, because if I do, and regardless, if we choose that this is the end of the line for us, I'm still going to hold on to some pieces regardless and then donate the rest. But I haven't I need to sit so I can do that. Like it's too big of like a decision. I'm not good with like finality on this. Right. And I just told my husband, I was like, I'd rather time pass and we look up and we're like, yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Now it's, yeah. It's, and that's like when we went from our first, who, like I said, was a little bit of an oopsie. And then we went 6 years in between having another one. Yeah. And so we totally started over. And even then at that point, we were like, we know we wanted more kids, but it's like, oh my God, to start over again, it's like, oof. But we did. And then it was like, okay, now we have these 2 with a huge age gap, which I want to talk about too, because I think that age gaps scare a lot of people. Yep. But so we have these 2 with a huge age gap. What's going to happen if we add one more and it's like a smaller age gap? Is our first one going to be left out? Should we have another one, or should we just have these 2 that are like basically 2 first children? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it just kind of spirals into each other no matter how many kids you have or, what number you're going on to. It's like, then the third, or the fourth. And with us, it comes to that big dilemma of, are you trying for a girl, when we have 3 boys? Because that's the other thing. And I have to be honest, you always want what you don't have, right? Yeah. So when someone would ask me, are you trying for a girl? Well, obviously I'm trying for, we want a baby, we're trying for another baby. We can't control what it is. Yeah. So, but do I want a girl? Yeah. Oh my God. Hell yeah, I want a girl. Like, of course, who wouldn't? After 3 boys, who doesn't want the other sex? You know what I mean? You always want what you don't have. Yeah. So, I wanted a baby. I knew we weren't done. My husband, like you said, was done at 3, but he is a kind soul and said,
let's go.
I don't want you to, mostly that was it. Yeah. Oh, we get to try again? Okay, let's go for it.
Yeah, right.
No, he's like, I don't want you to have that regret of, always living in your mind, we should have had one more. We should have had one more.
See, and that's kind of where I'm stuck right now, where I'm like, I can tell you right now, if I do end up having another baby, it's going to be a boy, and I already know what his name is going to be. Like, that's how weird it is. I have a feeling, like a gut feeling that I know who the next person would be, and watch, I'm going to be wrong if I end up getting pregnant. But
No, I
I
feel
just
you
had
on
a
that.
dream. Like I had a dream once and I was like, oh, this is how it's going to go. And I am like a big
I
believer in that because I had a dream before Spencer was born, and I will forever, like those dreams that you have and they
yes,
just stick with you and you can remember them, but they were also so like tangible in the moment. I
yes.
remember this dream of him being placed on my chest, and it like, and he wasn't even born yet, but I just remember a baby boy being placed in my chest, and I can remember that feeling, and it was like the best thing ever. So it was very familiar when I had him,
I had
but
I
it's just the wildest
I
thing.
didn't have a dream, but I feel you on that like gut feeling because I had the same thing about our fourth, and I
Yeah.
told my husband, I said, I know it will be a girl. I
Yeah.
just have this feeling. And he's like, if you can, promise me. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Right.
oh shoot, it better be right.
Yeah. Right.
But I did. I feel you on that where I just had this gut feeling where it was like it was gonna be,
Yeah.
and it was gonna
I
complete our family.
Yeah, I think so. Whenever I talked about this, like openly, either on social media or just even with friends, like the one thing that I always hear is like, if you don't think you're done, then you're not. And I
Yeah.
argue that a little bit because I'm like, again, we've said this, I think it's always going to just live in my brain. And the thing that I'm trying to distinguish, is that the word I'm going for? Yeah. I'm trying to figure out whether or not that's what I'm feeling is, do I want another human, like a brand new stinking human, or do I wish that I could go back a second longer with the babies I
Yeah.
already had? And that's what I'm trying to figure out, that whether or not, like, because if that's the case, obviously then it's just a grieving of like letting go versus like, okay, no, we're ready to meet someone brand new. And that's like,
And that's where you have to like kind of pick your own brain,
yeah,
you have to, because I went through the same exact thing. Do I, and it comes back to like, for me, the sex of it. Do I want just to try for for a girl, or do I really want another baby? And it
yeah,
was just like, you have to like pick your brain and almost like put a list of like pros and cons of like,
yeah, yeah,
of like what, so if you like imagine yourself, like you guys are going to London, you're starting to travel, you're,
yeah,
feeling better about leaving the kids for a longer period of time, that kind of stuff. If you see that in your future for longer,
yeah, yeah.
then you may, and this is just
No, it's true because that's
yeah,
how I'm thinking. I'm like, well,
yes.
because I also am thinking too about like business wise, like I'm really trying with the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. I'm trying with like, social media, like where I'm thinking, well, if I have another baby, that is only going to eat up more time. And then the other thing that I think obviously is very important is the amount of support you have. And I think that
Yeah.
that is the number one thing that you have to ask yourself before adding any
Yes.
additional child into your life.
Agreed.
Is not I saw someone on Instagram, and it said, when my friends ask if having another kid is worth it, and it's that you've seen, it's like the Men in Black CapCut template, and it's like the Tommy Lee Jones walking away saying,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's worth it if you're strong enough.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yes, I have seen that.
I disagree with that. I think it's if you're supported enough. It's not whether or not you're strong enough, because
And
we're
it
all
doesn't even
strong as
have to
hell.
be a village. It doesn't even
Yeah.
have to be like people around. Like if you are supported by your spouse,
Yeah.
if you are, that is like the
Huge.
biggest one
Yeah.
to me. Because I don't have a constant village. My
Yeah.
parents are in and out. They're traveling. They're retired. They don't, and so they're not around. I don't have siblings around.
Yeah.
We have friends who have their own children and own lives. But other than that, I don't have like a huge village either.
Yeah.
And I feel like your spouse, number one, has to be like the biggest support when you're thinking about other kids.
Absolutely.
Having more children,
Like, and
adding any more.
Yeah, blatant honesty as to what you're going to need. Especially like, let's talk, because here's the thing. It's different because you and I are familiar with the multiple kid. I feel like it's that 1 to 2 jump. That's obviously the first
Yes.
jump that you're going to make into adding more kids into your life.
Yes.
I feel like 1 to 2 rocked my freaking world. I'd be curious as to what your answer is. Which one was the hardest transition for you guys?
Okay, so I would say 2 to 3, but again, I have that huge age gap in the beginning.
That's true. Yeah.
And so I have 6 years. So I agree with people when they say 1 to 2 rocked their world.
Yeah.
I had one that was already independent. He
Yeah.
was 6 years old. He could wipe his own butt. He could get himself dressed. You know what I mean? I already had one that was on that independent curve.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, and what's the age gap between the 2, 3, and 4?
Yes. So they are 3.5 years apart.
Okay.
And then the 3 to 4 are just under 3 years apart.
Okay. So yeah. So you kind of like, yours is like a different version of the 1 to 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with people when they say 1 to 2 rocked their world, because it did. It rocked my world as a mom, like trying to juggle these 2 young kids together. And it rocked our marriage, I have to say.
Yeah.
I have to say that was probably our rockiest marriage, was my 2 to 3.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, I agree with people when you say 1 to 2
age
rock
gap.
the world.
I tell people to wait as long as they can. I know people are like, because I have friends. I have a friend of mine now that just had a baby. I think
I bow down to people that are 2 under 2. Like I did it.
I did it. That's why 1 to 2 rocked my world. And I didn't. And I always say, so like my friend, she just had her first baby. Her baby's turning 1 in December. So she's still in like the blissful. It's like, because I feel like at that 9-10 month mark where you're at.
Yeah.
They're like sitting up, they're crawling.
Yes.
They're eating solid foods. Chances are they're probably sleeping longer stretches at night. Like you're entering that little bit of a steady stream of sorts. Where it's just like, it's nice. And I feel like that tricked us. Like, I think Kevin and I, we even got that. I think it started a little bit earlier because Cassidy especially was like a very easy baby. Mm-hmm. She was go
Those
with the
first
flow.
ones, man, they
get you.
They get you.
They get you. That's what they do. But that's what it did for us. And we like started trying at like 8 months postpartum. We didn't get pregnant until 13 months postpartum. And then when I had him, 21 months was the difference of that. Yeah. So 21 months. And honestly, at the beginning, it wasn't that bad because he was a blob. Newborn babies are blobs. I need to put him on my boob, put him back down, and it is what it is. And I know he was like, it really gave me a run for my money when he was like 3 months, because then he was fussy, and he was just fussy for the rest of his life. That's how my child is. So he is like
second kid.
He is. That's how I describe him. I'm like, he literally is. Like, my whole family knows that. Where like, he wasn't a bad baby. Like, I don't like to say bad baby, but he wasn't like colicky. He wasn't any of that, but he has never been content for more than 5 minutes in his entire life. And that is the same way that he is now. He is not content with anything. And if I can find something that can distract him long enough, it's a win. I have a video I put up once of me standing with a paper bag on my head that we cut holes out of on vacation, because if he saw me, he needed me, only me. And I wanted to hang out with my friends and drink a glass of wine. So we literally cut like a little hole in this paper bag in our eyes, and I sipped wine through a straw because I was
Motherhood
like, you can't
makes
see
you
me.
do the weirdest shit, I swear.
Ever. But that is the second child that he did. And he like, and yet we still went for a third. So it really wasn't that bad, but he was the breaking in. He broke us.
You just forget a little bit.
Yeah.
You're just like, maybe this one will make him more content. Maybe.
I think I actually want to do a post like this. And when I have Katie from Mommy Needs More Wine, when she comes on and she co-hosts with me, we talked about this before. And I asked her, like, what did each of your kids teach you? And it's actually really great. Like, if you sit down and think about it, because the answers usually always are different for anyone. But like the first kind of taught me like to slow down and to, patience a little bit. My second taught me to prioritize, because I literally lost myself so tremendously in that second because it was so hard. And the third was to just go with it. Like, she's the one that taught me to just accept the chaos that exists, because it is with three. Yeah.
Three is hard.
Yeah. 3 is interesting. It's not, I actually think, well, again, I think it's easier than the 1 to 2. But again, I think it's because the 2 broke us in. And I say that a lot, and people are like, they break you? And I'm like, yeah, the 2 broke us. We were just like, yeah, okay. And by the third, we're like, yeah, it's just another body at this point. It's just a shit.
Exactly. And that was like my conclusion with like the fourth. I'm like, like, what is one more? what that was my mentality as far as like the schedule part of it, that had already flopped out the window. As you have more kids, like they go everywhere with you. The other kids have activities, you know what I mean? So like the schedule part of it, like totally goes out the freaking window.
Yeah.
So, they just have to become more go with the flow. And in my opinion, I have become more go with the flow as I've had more kids. So that was the other thing is like, really like other than like you have to check yourself mentally, because that's another thing when it comes to like your support. And when I said like support from yourself, you have to still like mentally be there. And I know
you have to be very honest with yourself. This is not a time to like just be honest. And it's not a bad thing either. I think that's kind of where I'm at too. It's like I mentally am exhausted a lot. So like I just want to make sure that I am going to, if I choose to go down the fourth route, that it's going to be worth it. And I think the thing that I like with the adding on and like you said, like kids activities, the thing that I didn't like and the first eye opener for me last year when I had her and she was like 6 months old was they have to be a little bit more go with the flow, but she's not been the greatest go with the flow baby. So I had to kind of keep her a little bit more regimented on nap schedules and things like that.
Yeah.
And because of that, I had to miss out on a lot of the activities per se. So like even this year, like we signed Cassie up for cheerleading, Kevin brings her. And so like for me, I would love to, but it's hard because Haley's also I need mommy only. All of my kids are like that. So it's just like, that's made it hard. Yeah. So it's like, I think about that and I think about like, can I dedicate as much time and can my kids get the activities that they need and things like that. I don't want them to be gypped because I'm adding a sibling. And then also like mentally, I'm like, I don't want them to be gypped out of a mother.
We'll be back after a quick break. Eye-Opening Moments podcasts are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcasts.
There's so many considerations that you have to take in when you're ending your family. You know what I mean? You're completing it. And mental stability is like a huge one, along with, this is like a whole other topic, but affording a family, especially nowadays, affording another child. But, that could be a whole other topic in and of itself.
No, but I think it's important because even
like, it is.
I talked about it the other day. I have to go buy groceries today. I have to sit down and go. And I literally just spent $215 at Aldi. And it's already, and that wasn't even our first grocery shopping. That was like,
it's crazy.
That was additional.
It's absolute insanity.
It's not
to go grocery shopping nowadays.
Yeah. So that's like another factor. But the amount of when I shared how much groceries are costing per week here, and you're in California, so I know that. Yeah. But New Jersey, it's insane. I know California is insane. Everywhere is insane at this point. But I know I had multiple women reach out to me and they're like, this is why we are not having any more, is because we don't know the state of which is happening. And I think it is an important conversation. Even like the cost of childcare. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. And that's what made me stay home.
Yeah.
So I was a nurse. My husband's a nurse, and I stopped working after my second was about 6 months old because childcare for 2 kids,
forget it.
Outrageous.
No,
outrageous.
Even for one kid, I stopped working with Cassidy because I tried. My mom used to be, I was personal training. So again, I was making like $25 per session. So it was not anything substantial. Personal training is one of those things that like you have to grind your gears in order to like really see things like flourish and get up there in the ranks. And I just didn't have the time to dedicate to that. But my mom would come over and babysit Haley for the 3-4 hours that I'd be out of the house. And that was great because it was free. She was fine. But also, like, my mom didn't want to be a full-time caretaker. And I didn't want that for my mom.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
yeah,
I think it works for some families, but I was like, I don't really want that dynamic. Like, I kind of want to separate, like,
I
your
agree.
grandma, I'm mom. Like, I don't want this to be like a,
we had to do that with my first when I was working, and it's hard to separate that grandma versus babysitter kind of thing.
Yeah, because you want, like, the boundaries. It's hard with boundaries. And, like, you know, my mom and I are very similar, but there are still boundaries that I want to hold. And even with my mother-in-law, it was like, it just became messy. And so I tried going back, and I brought Cassie, thankfully I found a new job at a gym that had a daycare in it. So it was like our childcare. So you'd go work out, drop your kid off there, and they were fine about keeping her for 3 hours while I was, like, training for that block.
Yeah.
And she'd play, and it was just like a small little room. But because it's a childcare at a gym, people don't screen for fevers. People don't care about their kids getting sick or any of that. So Cassidy was constantly sick. Yeah. And I think within the first 11 weeks that I worked there, I had already missed at least 2 times per week. And it was just like, and I couldn't do anything about it. And I was like, I could tell that they were annoyed at me. And I was like, I'm done. Like, this is it. Yeah. I can't do anything about this at this point. It's just stressing me out, and it's not even financially, it's just not worth it. So,
I know. But honestly, it's, like, I want to go back to that when you said, you don't, I don't want to say you didn't agree, but what was that?
Oh, you have to be strong enough.
Was it the strong enough, or I can't remember. There was one more before that.
I don't know.
I don't think it was no, it wasn't the strong enough, because that's the one I agree with is the, you know, you have to have that mentality.
Yeah.
But I had it in my head, and then we started
talking, and now mom brain.
Chatting. I know.
Welcome
That's
to
so
the life
horrible.
of our mom brain. You know how often that happens to me when I have guests on? It's so bad. It's so bad. I'll literally, and I could see it leave my head. And they'll be talking to me, and I'm like, I can see it just walk out the door. And I'm like, okay, and then it will hit you. It'll hit you in a little bit.
I know.
No, but
anyway,
that's where I'm at.
No, this topic is a crazy one, and I don't know if you ever feel ready.
Yeah.
To stop, you know what I mean?
I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think it's like an existential crisis. Sometimes I feel like it literally is. I feel like sitting there, it's like, for me at least, I feel like I just started having kids. And I feel like it also is such a built up moment of having the baby.
Yes.
That not many people talk about, like, after you have the baby. No one really talks about, like, the child rearing ages.
Yes.
We all just talk about, like, the child birthing.
Well, you're looking at, you know, these 3 that you have right now, and you're looking at them, and you're like, oh my gosh, I could have 15 more of these, because you know, looking back at the happy moments. Yeah. You're looking at pictures, and you're like, oh my gosh, I could have so many more kids, and they are just amazing. Look at their little personalities. Yeah. They are growing and learning and all this stuff, and all of this amazing good things that come from kids with you scrolling through the pictures of the day that you have taken, right? Yeah. And then you actually take your pros and cons list, and you're thinking, I want to have another kid, you know, But then you have to think, this is one more to discipline. This is one more to teach, potty train, to, you know,
train, or whatever the heck you do. Oh my God.
You have to take like so many things into consideration. Yeah. And you're right. Nobody talks about those after stages. And that's where also it comes back to the mental stability. You know, can you handle one more postpartum? Can your body handle one more postpartum?
Well, and that's another thing for me too, because I had C-sections. So for me, I'm like, that one more would definitely be it. But on the flip side, if I had one more and I have a C-section, which I would be anyway, I can then get in and they can tie my tubes.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, then we're going to be in there. Like, might as well.
Yeah. No, totally.
But so for me, I'm like, there's that. But it's definitely, I don't know. I think there's like
I want to know.
Go ahead.
I want to know what is like, if you could narrow it down to one thing that's holding you back from having another kid, what is that one thing?
It's probably the feeling of knowing that I'm like actually finding myself again. It's postpartum. It's the postpartum period. I really, I think it's especially this time, and that's why, like, even with like me getting my nose pierced recently and like things like that, I've been doing more things of like trying to figure out who I am and doing things that I've always wanted to do, because I think I may have talked about this on a previous podcast, but I graduated college kind of not sure who I was. I met Kev about 3 months after I graduated college. We dated. We got engaged a year and a half after that. We then got married a year after that. So I've gone from being a college graduate to not knowing who you are as a teenager, or not a teenager, a 21-year-old, to a girlfriend, to a fiance, to a wife. And then we got pregnant a year and a half after that. So then I went to being a mom. There wasn't much time between that. So like I've just been something for someone else for so long that I've never been something for me. So now I'm starting to get a taste of that. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. And to think about going backwards again scares the living bejesus out of me, especially. And it's also the postpartum anxiety that freaks me out. I had it really bad this time. And it's, I did it with Haley. I thankfully, and this is again, I know how lucky I am. I don't like to say blessed. I have a problem with saying blessed. I know how lucky and fortunate I am that I've never had any of these, but I've never had a miscarriage. I've never had anything like that, but I've known so many people that have had. And I felt with Haley's pregnancy, I was like, there's no way that I can have a third and not have something happen this time. So I was always waiting for something to go wrong, because I was like, this makes no sense. Like one, I know so many people in my life, how common this is. Like this makes no sense to me. So the entire pregnancy, I was like waiting for the other shoe to drop, her entire newborn first year of life, waiting for something to go wrong. So it's like, it just, for me, I'm like, if I do it a fourth time, I have a feeling I'm going to do that again. And I'm like, oh, I'd rather just sit. Everything is okay right now and just be content. But then there's the nagging feeling of being like, I don't know. Yeah. I could picture like a little fourth just running around, just extra chaos. So,
and that's what it is, because another thing to consider, it's just another, round of chaos that's coming your way.
I think too, because it's also like another thing that like that makes me want to hold on to that thought too, is it's delaying
the thought of not having one.
No, the thought of like a reason why I'm considering having another one too. And I've thought about this because I've sat with this too, is I think it delays the inevitable grief that comes from when you're done. And it's not so much like, it's not a grief of like being done itself. It's the grief of seeing your kids grow up. And this is like a conversation I just had with someone, like, and I thought about this, like right now I look at my life and I cannot imagine my life looking any different. But in a beautiful way. And for me to like look at my kids, like today, I always feel like my life is going to be surrounded by 3 little kids.
Yes.
And it's hard to wrap your head around that one day they're going to be older, or it's the fact that one day their little faces will not look that way anymore. Like it's almost like one day they're going to walk out of a room and not come back. And there's like something I'm going to cry thinking about that, but there's something so heartbreaking about that, where I think the idea of having another baby kind of like it extends that a little bit longer.
And I'm thinking that that's why my heart led me to having a fourth, was because my oldest, I feel like I didn't get to enjoy him as a baby. worked a lot. We struggled at that time. We just, had issues during that time because it wasn't something that we were 100% prepared for. Did I always want to be a mom? Did my husband always want to be a dad? Yes.
Yeah.
So that part wasn't like what we struggled with, but we just, we were young.
Yeah.
We were
Logistics. And
22 years old. We, we weren't prepared, and I didn't get to enjoy him as a baby. And so I knew that I wanted to have, but I just felt like that, that I just need one more. I don't know. Like in my head, I always thought, I know this is like, I feel like I don't want this to come off as the wrong way, because I recognize my oldest as, obviously he is my child, but I always wanted 3 kids. And I feel like these 3 being close in age are like the 3 kids. And my oldest has always been a part of us as just us, me, my husband, and him as like a unit. Yeah. We only dated for like literally a year when we got pregnant. Yeah. And so it's always been us 3. And so I see us, literally
it's like almost like 2 different identities, because you were so
exactly
as a family of 3 for so long.
Exactly.
And now you're switched into,
and now we're like in a whole nother family, and he is the best big brother that you could ever imagine. I mean, we tell him all the time, like, stop disciplining them. You are not the father. Yeah. But he is to them. Like, he is such like another figure to them that it's like amazing. But I think that's what led me to have another one, is like, I just needed that feeling of like having that
present,
that one more of just, I needed another baby to, I don't know.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see that. And that's what I even said to my sister recently, because I was like, well, if we do, like, right now is not the time. Like, I know, like, I'm good, but it's definitely weird. Like I said, this is the longest I've ever gone without being pregnant again and getting pregnant again.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But like I said, I was like, if we decide, I can almost see me doing that when Haley is off to preschool a little bit. Like that way I can have, because all of the kids are at school, and even like now, because both of my older kids are at school full time. Yeah. So I'm getting that with her, like of having that time throughout the day and just like that one-on-one. So I'm
it's so nice.
Yeah. And it's just a different feeling. And sometimes I feel incredibly guilty because Spencer never got that. So
yeah. No, my third never got that because my second never went to preschool. It was peak COVID time and everything was shut down. And so we never got that like one-on-one. It is so like crazy, like the amount of factors that go into having another kid, because that goes into it as well. Like, it's just like not being able to, I didn't get to enjoy that third, that third baby, because again, it wasn't like we didn't have that time. And I know like you can't have your like selfish moments, which you can and you can't, right? Because in my heart, I was like, I didn't get to enjoy that third baby. There was COVID and we didn't get that one-on-one time and all this stuff. And, it's like how your brain just.
Well, I talk about it a lot with Spencer because I don't remember a lot of Spencer's stuff. So like, even that's why I don't know if you saw that video I put up on Instagram, but like I was so emotional for his birthday this year, and I couldn't figure out why. And I'm emotional with all of their birthdays, but this year was like extra hard hitting. And I realized I was like, this is the first birthday that I'm actually like, I can tell that I'm going to remember this in the moment. Like I'm actually here because I look back and like with Spencer, especially like not with Cassidy, not with Haley, but Spencer, because it was I had him again, he was fussy, then COVID hit, and just I had postpartum depression. Like it was just a lot where I don't remember a lot of his infant years. So when I go through my camera roll, I feel nothing but like a pit in my stomach of guilt, where I'm like, that I feel so bad for him. I feel bad for him. Like I feel like it's not fair, but also at the same time of like, it's survival mode. Like your life and body is going to do whatever it needs.
It is.
But I think about that and I'm like, okay, that this birthday was the first that I was actually able to be like, I'm here. And that's another reason why I'm like, I don't know if I want to have another baby, because I'm like, I'm here now. And I'm like, I'm here, and maybe this is what my kids need, and they don't need a sibling. Maybe they just, I'm a big arguer at that. Like, someone will always say, like, picture what your Thanksgiving table looks like. And I'm like, I get that, but are you going to be at that Thanksgiving table? And I don't mean just like physically.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
But like you said, I'm a big advocate of these age gaps. You know, like I said, I bow down to the 2 under 2. Yeah. I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how it is. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like to have, 2 under 2. These 3.5, 3 year, even that under 3 year age gap is tough for me. Yeah. Like the bigger age gaps. So like you said, if you are wanting to, it can be held off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Kev is like, my husband's going to be turning 40 in 3 years. So he's like, yeah, no, I'm done. And I'm like, I'm only 33, man. Like,
exactly.
yeah. I was like, we got time.
Wait, in 3 years?
He'll be 40 in 3 years. So he's like, yeah, I'm good. And I'm like, he's 37. I'm 33. Or no,
my
38.
Goodness.
How old is he? I don't know. He's either 37 or 38. But I'm like, I'm 33. I was like, we got time.
Yes,
I'm
you
like,
have time.
Yeah, let's just figure that out. We'll cross that bridge.
Yes, you have time. And like I said, age gaps are amazing, I have to say.
Yeah, and he doesn't want a vasectomy. He doesn't want one of those. Oh. So I'm like, okay.
Well, either did my husband, but Yeah.
Well, that's why. I mean, if although I told him, I said, if we do have a fourth, I'll get my tubes tied.
Yeah.
But I still want you to get a vasectomy for like solidarity. Like, we're in this together, man. He was like, no, what kind of deal is that? I was like, because.
Oh, it's simple.
Yeah, right? Takes a second.
Zip and out the door.
I know. They numb them up. They do.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
Oh, my husband was afraid too. He's a little,
Make sure he gets that tested, though. Make sure he tests. Make sure no more.
Yes, he actually goes pretty soon to get that done.
The amount of people I know that have a vasectomy baby.
I know. I was just telling him that the other day because, like, it's coming up for him to get tested. And I'm like, you better go, because I have seen so many people that get pregnant, and it's crazy. But I'm with
babies, IUD babies. No.
Not fun.
No.
Not,
Yeah. Well.
But I'm with you when it comes to, like, I going from 3 to 4, I feel is such a mind, messes with your mind so much, because I feel like it's also like an even number type of thing. It's there's so many factors that like come into it.
Part of me too is because I both of us are from a family of like 3 technically. So I'm like, well, it'd be nice to see what that would look different and do something different. So I don't know. Remains to be seen, everyone.
And I have to agree. That is probably another thing that went into it. We are both from a family of 3 too.
Yeah.
And we wanted, like, I wanted something different.
Yeah.
And maybe to make it a different family dynamic of some sorts.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Everybody's got that family.
Yeah. I don't know.
Junk.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. Right now, I'm content. Like, that's how I know. I'm like, if I'll have a feeling at some point, but I'm like, right now.
And it can come later. It can come later.
Yeah.
There's
no time. There's no timeline.
No, there's no timeline. But I have to say, like, when you know.
Yes. Well, I will say that.
I think that's what you were saying earlier was, people say, like, you'll get that feeling of, and you don't agree with that and I think when you said that, and I think it's just because you haven't had that yet.
Yeah.
And
although part of me wonders if I am, and maybe I'm just like second guessing myself, but like, I don't know. Like right now, I know that I don't.
You don't want one now.
Yeah, I don't want that one now. So I'm okay about that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's like a forever type of thing.
But like you said, there's no timeline. But I do have to agree, when you know.
Okay.
And you have to, like, even if it does take a few times of going through your pros and cons list and weighing those out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It happens.
It
But yes,
it'll figure its way out one way or
it
another.
does. It does. And everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And, you know,
we'll see. We'll see what happens. Stay
Yes.
tuned, everyone. Ooh,
I know.
I don't know. No moves have been made.
I know, but I agree. I know.
Yeah.
Doing things, because that's what I feel about that I'm doing now, is now that I like truly know, like you said, you're finding yourself.
Yeah.
I'm, you know.
Yeah, that's like the feeling that I don't want to lose again.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I want to kind of keep going course on that one. But maybe I can still have that if I do that again and I wait. Maybe I can still have that. I don't know. We'll see.
Where you kind of like grow a little bit more stability in what you're trying to achieve, and
then make the move. Yeah.
Then make the decision of yes or no. Like, is everything going like perfect and kids are all content and everything? Yeah. Or do we need, you know, because that's another thing is like wants versus needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Wants versus needs.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been good because I'm sure everyone's probably, you know, it's one of those open-ended discussions.
It is. There's no like ending to this.
No,
you know?
There's no like one way or to define how to be done or not, but it's just, yeah. If you're in the same boat as me, don't worry. It's hard.
Yeah. It's a never, like I said, it doesn't leave my brain that, you know, that I would, or like, what if one more little body was running around here, or I see pictures of myself pregnant and I'm like, oh, the bump, you know, you're never going to have that again. And, you know, each kid I've gotten a lot more emotional.
Yeah. And I think it's because you realize how fast it goes. I think that too. So you're like,
yeah, definitely. And now I look at my teenage son, and he, you know, had his 13th birthday, and he comes out of his room and he's all dressed like he's a big boy, and I like cried my eyeballs out, and he's like, "Mom, are you crying?" And I'm
like, shut up. Yeah.
I am crying. I'm bawling my eyeballs out. You are 13 years old. You can't be. Like, there's no way that you can be. But
yeah. Crazy.
Happens.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for joining in. I'll, as always, I will link everything of Jess's in the show notes. That way you guys can go give her a follow. Her page is fun. So definitely be sure to go check her out. And like I said, if you guys are listening to this, obviously that means it's out, which means over on Instagram, a post is up. So head on over there and find that and let us know what your predicament is, because this is hard. It's so hard.
Yes. But,
we'll figure it out. So.
And not to do a little shameless plug, but I've got a small shop started as well.
Oh, yeah. I'll link that too. Too. So everything. But I love shameless plugs. So, all right. Well, thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Of course. Another episode down. Thank you all so much for listening. If you loved today's episode, I would be so appreciative if you would leave a rating and review. I cannot begin to tell you how much those mean to me, but also how much they help me get in front of more eyes and more ears. As always, be sure to check back every Tuesday and Friday for a new episode, whether it's an episode with me and my husband, me and Katie, or just another incredible, amazing guest. Stay tuned for more honest, real, raw chit-chat. And hey, do me a favor before you go. Remind yourself how amazing you are, how enough you are, how special you are. And boy, oh boy, I sure am glad to have you here. Thanks, friend.